Now, I want to prophesy upon you. You know, I saw nations. I saw a great storm hitting the nations. And the Lord opened my eyes and he said, there's going to be mighty floods, mighty warning floods. Of course, we have seen it. But what is coming is prophetic. That's why I'm telling you to affirm it. It's going to be so bad. I saw a flood sweeping people, sweeping nations, literally lifting people up, property. Now, we have heard of tsunamis, we have heard of this, but this is, you know, the last signs into the rapture. The storm is going to hit from the northern hemisphere of the world. There's going to be great chaos. There's going to be great destabilization around the nations, but I saw the northern hemisphere.
Tonight, President Biden face-to-face with towns nearly wiped off the map.
The scope and scale of this destruction is almost beyond belief. When you look around here, it's just almost beyond belief.
Today, touring devastated communities in Kentucky, victims of last week's historic tornadoes.
The government's going to cover 100% of the cost. 100% of the cost for the first 30 days for all the emergency work.
In hard-hit Mayfield, the National Guard is on the ground, cleaning up and buckling down for a massive recovery effort now underway. The cost of the damage here, staggering.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a number upwards in the hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion.
The sheer power of tornadoes can often be tough to comprehend, but these twisters were especially remarkable. Some of this debris was blown 130 miles away. People on social media now reuniting owners with personal belongings. This treasured family photo from Kentucky was just found on a car windshield in Indiana.
In hours, it was all gone.
But for people like Luis Parda, the losses are crushing. On this street, he lost 3 small businesses, a car dealership, a detail shop, and a soccer training facility for children, seen here before and after the storm. He has barely any insurance.
How overwhelming does this all feel right now?
We can't sleep. I wake up at night, my wife's crying, the kids are sad because, that was their place every day.
For many, the trauma runs deep. Donna Maceda was driving home from out of state when her daughter Brianna called to tell her a tornado was barreling toward their Kentucky house.
All I could hear was her screaming for me. And Mom, I don't know what to do. And Mom, I'm so scared. And I didn't know what to say. Like, what do you say?
A helplessness no parent ever wants to feel. Incredibly, Brianna survived. Today they tried to salvage what they could.
How grateful are you to be standing here right now?
Super grateful. I definitely thought that I wasn't going to make it. It's hard to know that she went through it by herself, and all I could do was listen.
But you made it, and she made it.
Mayfield will be okay. It's just going to be a long time.
Yeah, just one incredible story after another, Gabe. We also got an update on just how long even the first recovery efforts will take there.
Yeah, Lester, local officials say it could be 7 to 10 days before power poles are rebuilt and transmission lines hooked up here. Just the start of a recovery that could take years. And for many residents here, it'll be another long night ahead with more rain expected here tomorrow.
Kentucky, after a tornado ripped through that town of about 10,000 people. And Brandon Clement is a storm chaser who captured this video, and he's joining me right now on the phone. So, Brandon, as we look at these pictures, I mean, it looks like just a giant steamroller just came on through, knocking down everything in its path except for a couple of resilient buildings there, right there. This looks like a historic brick building that we're looking at right here, and your drone footage captures it. So, tell me about your experience along the way as you were also able to capture these images.
I started off in Arkansas and waited for the tornado to come up towards the I-55 corridor. I knew it was going to be fast moving, and it was going through some pretty rural areas of Arkansas. Once it crossed over the I-55, Interstate 55, just along the Arkansas-Missouri line, it crossed over about 300 yards in front of me, through a bunch of 18-wheelers and semis and a couple different roads right there. It cuts over and crosses the river into Tennessee. And then came up, went down into Arkansas and went to Leachville, and unfortunately there was a fatality there. I talked to several people, a lot of destruction there, and made my way up into the Kentucky area. But when I got to Mayfield, it was just, it's no comparison to what I've seen so far in the past. It's complete destruction. And I see 50 to 120 to pass a year, and this is top 2 or 3 in the last decade.
Wow. I mean, you say no comparison to what you've seen before. You've been doing this long enough to have some reference points of what happens to a city, a town, a community when tornadoes come through. Give me your initial reaction. Of course, it was, dark, but your initial reaction once you were able to capture these images and really see how widespread this path of destruction was compared to what you've seen prior to this day.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff like this before. It's just been a long time. 2011, we had the April 27th outbreak with the Tuscaloosa, Smithville EF5, Hackleburg EF5, and more Joplin, but it's almost that level. You just see complete destruction of areas, forests that are just completely mowed over, debarked, the ground's rode up, debris is spread. I mean, you can't tell if a T-shirt that's hanging in the tree is from the house next to it or the one 3 miles over. Well-built, strong, old brick buildings completely collapsed, cars thrown. The fatality count, unfortunately, it's really high. It's going to be one of the deadliest tornadoes in modern history. It's going to be one of the longest tornadoes in history. I'm not saying it's the EF5, but there's a chance it's the EF5. If it is, it's the first one in a long time. I think it's the longest we've ever gone without one. It'll be the first one in December. So, I mean, this tornado just checks so many boxes on just the high end of scale.
I mean, Brandon, I've covered a lot of tornadoes being on the ground there as a reporter from Arkansas to Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and the path of destruction is usually measured by a mile at a time. It's even that. But when you look at these images that you're presenting to us, and we're hearing our reporting from our meteorologist, Allison Chinchar, to hear multiple miles in terms of its width, and the path of destruction is simply extraordinary. And oftentimes when you first arrive to a scene like this, you might see, people who are just kind of picking through, who were nearly shell-shocked. What have you been able to witness in terms of people who have responded, people who survived this storm, and what are they telling you?
Everybody I've spoken to in this town so far knows somebody that has been lost in this storm. And they haven't even got all the names yet. It's not a very big place, and the fatality per capita for this storm, like you talk about Joplin as a pretty large city. This is a town of 10,000 people, 10,300, something like that. It's unbelievable how many people have died from this storm, and it's just about a 3 or 4 mile stretch where it took place. It's just the worst possible scenarios coming along. It's a very intense tornado. Long track at night, very fast moving. It's just everything that you don't want to have as a storm chaser or a meteorologist. It checks every one of those boxes that you just don't want to have. It's a worst case scenario.
Incredible. Have you spoken to anyone who might be, whether they're a first responder or helping out, or whether they are loved ones